Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to what I'm gonna probably call Avry the Podcast, Avry's World, Avry Sports. I'm not sure what we're gonna call this yet. It's a new venture in the Avry Sports empire, but I do want to welcome to the first ever episode of whatever I'm gonna call this. One Mr. Brad Bartko from Bradcast Sports. Brad, how you doing, sir?
I'm doing awesome, man. Thanks for having me, and I'm looking forward to helping you kickstart this thing.
Of course, man. Brad, further, go back to the very start with you, man. How did we even meet? Do you recall, Brad?
You know what? I think we met on Twitter, to be honest.
I think so. I know. I heard your story. I saw you. For those who don't know, you have cerebral palsy. I know you were inspiration, Brad. I know you were on CTV News. I first saw you on CTV interviewing Orla players and interviewing Shane Dona and Steve McIntyre many years ago.
Yeah, that was a long time ago. Yeah, many years ago.
what, what was that like for you? Because you've been in the locker room. I've been in the media for 5 years, and I've never, ever been in the Orioles locker room. Not even once.
You know, I've been in that room about 4 times, and it sends absolute chills down your spine when that door opens and you see those 5 Stanley Cups staring you right in the face. There's obviously room for one more, and let's hope it comes to fruition here very shortly. But I mean, just wonderful, just being able to walk around and see the stalls and see the names of Alex Hemsky and when Sean Horkoff played and stuff like that. It was just great and great to be a part of. So.
No, I can only imagine that, Brad. I know with today still technically being August 9th, we got to talk about the fact that Marty McSorley traded to the LA Kings. Tough to lose a great enforcer like Marty McSorley, wasn't it, Brad?
Oh boy, yeah, it was really tough. Yeah, that's let's not remind everybody. Also, the Great One was traded as well on this very sad day in Oilers history. So.
And it's funny because neither you or I were born in 1988, but just how people always talk about it, it's shown every single year. It's as if we were born in the 80s to experience Gretzky being dealt to Los Angeles.
Yeah, I can't imagine being able to turn on the TV and, after we discuss it, I have a story similar to that I'll explain in a second. But, being able to turn on the TV or the radio and hearing possibly, or not possibly, the greatest player to ever play in NHL hockey is being traded to the Los Angeles Kings. I mean, us in Edmonton, obviously, in complete shell shock. Not only Edmonton, but you gotta wonder, even Canada-wide, around the world, this sends shockwaves and just, complete and utter disbelief.
No, it's true, and it's funny because you always hear that there was rumors before, because I guess the story went back, people asking Wayne, are you be back here for camp, and Wayne wouldn't really answer a question, and it was in negotiations for a long time. And it's funny because LA was a team that was involved, but also the Vancouver Canucks were also involved. Could you imagine if Gretzky went to Vancouver instead of LA?
I hate the Canucks now. Can you imagine if Gretzky would have went to Vancouver and played with the Canucks and won a Stanley Cup? I would have hated them even more.
I mean, the running joke about the Canucks being a team that can never get over that hump, that joke would have been shattered decades ago if it happened, probably.
Yeah, that's... I don't want to even think about Gretzky in a Canucks uniform. That's for me, it's just sickening and it turns my stomach. But as I was saying, before we, move on and talk about the here and now of sports, I want to talk about something that, shocked me and something that I'll never forget. Obviously, not as big as the Gretzky trade, but we all remember when the heart and soul, number 94, Ryan Smith, was dealt on, trade it was trade deadline day.
It was.
1 year when Ryan Smith was dealt to the Colorado Avalanche. I was in St. Albert. It was Mark Messier Day in St. Albert. They unveiled a street for him. They unveiled the arena, the Mark Messier Arena. I was there enjoying the festivities. And on my way home, I turned on 630 Jet. I'm driving down the highway with my grandpa. And here to find out that Ryan Smith, Wayne Gretzky's still on my mind. But to find out Ryan Smith had been traded from the Edmonton Oilers to the Colorado Avalanche, a guy that I thought would never be traded in the first place. But to see what we got in return is absolutely just obviously, you don't want to compare it to the Gretzky trade, the return, but you can almost do so, as the Oilers got really nothing in return for Gretzky, and now you get nothing in return for, at that time, a very good hockey player in Ryan Smith. And we can't say the same right now, as Smith is, older, and yes, he's back in Edmonton, but just the return for Ryan Smith, and it was a very sad day in Edmonton.
No, it was a very sad day. You know what, Brad? I was in school. The school I went to was an interesting school. They weren't allowed to have TVs in the school. I was the only guy allowed to have a radio in the school because I was listening to hockey. And it wasn't what secular music was considered. I went to a Christian school, and we were listening to the radio. And we assumed, Ryan Smith resigned. But then, Eklund. If you don't know who Eklund is, folks, Eklund is a hockey insider who, most of the time, gets his deals and predictions very, very, very wrong. Am I not correct in that assessment, Brad?
Oh, very, very, very true.
And I heard in the radio, people were saying Eklund says Ryan Smith to the Islanders is possible. So I was thinking, yeah, right, he's full of crap again. But when I heard it was true, I dropped my radio, almost broke it. And when I got home to see the press conference, my nose started bleeding immediately. Was it a sign Ryan Smith trades Avery's nose bleeds? So, very strange.
Boy, that's correct. It was the New York Islanders. My apologies. I said the Colorado Avalanche. But no, it was the Islanders. And I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Avery, the Edmonton Oilers received a first-round draft pick. Robert Nielsen, J.F. Jock, and Ryan O'Mara, I believe, was the return value on Ryan Smith. And let me remind everybody out there right now, Robert Nielsen is nowhere to be found in the NHL. J.F. Jock's a career minor leaguer. I believe he's in Tampa Bay or the Florida Panthers organization now. And Ryan O'Mara, is another career minor league player and just hasn't really excelled. And given the opportunity a couple of years ago with the Oilers, and really didn't do much. So now he'll spend the majority of his probably career in American Hockey League.
No, it's true, Ryan O'Mara. He's actually playing in Finland with the Pelicans right now. He's playing in top flight hockey in Finland. So he's not even in North America anymore.
Oh, there you go.
No, you mentioned the return. Of course, the return of the Gretzky trade and the Ryan Smith trade. The Gretzky trade, they got guys back, 49-goal year in 88-89. They got back guys who were able to lead this team to a better season and to a cup. Robert Nielsen, what did he really lead this team to? Not that much. Same for Amara.
Yeah, they didn't allude to nothing. I would have been happy with a bag of pucks and a coupon at McDonald's for Ryan Smith. I mean, look at that first round graphic turned into it. Do you remember that?
Oh my gosh, I think I'm a 6-inch sub from Subway.
Yeah, you may be correct there, yeah.
It really didn't amount to much, and it's just the Oilers development. Of course, now we know what the Oilers can do now, drafting Hall and Eberle and Hopkins, but there was a period for a long time where there was a time with Oilers drafting where they could have had the next Gretzky staring them in the face, and they ended up drafting a bowling ball.
They could have had Shane Doan, for crying out loud, and I can't even remember who they took that year, and they passed up on Shane Doan.
Oh, they took Steve Kelly.
Yeah, Steve Kelly.
Steve Kelly lasted maybe 2-3 years in the NHL, spent the rest of his time in the AHL, and the Northlands Coliseum, the whole place was chanting, Doan, 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 Doan. When Steve Kelly was announced, the whole arena went silent.
Wouldn't you?
I would.
He got drafted by the Edmonton Oilers. People are like, who?
Yeah. And I have Steve Kelly's stats up here. 149 games, Brad, and only 21 career points in the NHL.
Yeah, that's the winner.
Hear me slow clapping. What a move.
That's almost as bad as Jason Bonsignor.
Oh my gosh. Who was on the team till 60 last year and was basically crying how I didn't get a fair chance. They liked Ryan Smith over me. Boo hoo hoo. When he came into camp, overweight and didn't want to work hard. What are you crying about, dude?
Yeah, I hear you.
It's just The Oilers drafting, what this team could have had. We mentioned J.F. Jacques. We mentioned guys like Marc-Antoine Pouliot. This is a team that could have had Zach Parise. We talked about the Gretzky trade. I know everyone says it so often, and Oilers fans hate hearing how the Gretzky trade helped hockey, but it really did, because if Gretzky's not dealt, there's no Florida, there's no Tampa, I bet there's not even a Columbus or a Colorado.
Hell, there's even no LA Kings before that.
Yeah, I mean,
you know, it's it is, and it was good. Yes, you can, from an Oilers standpoint, you can hate Peter Pocklington and Bruce McNall for all it's worth. But if you're on the flip side here, if you're the LA Kings, if you're every other expansion team that came after that, you are thanking Peter Pocklington and Bruce McNall. These two guys look like absolute geniuses in some people's eyes because they really evolved the game of hockey, trading the best player to ever play.
Hockey did benefit, but what Antonians just hate Peter Pocklington for is, of course, the fact that it wasn't really a trade. It was a sale. Pocklington wanted money. He didn't care about what players he got back, which was what people really hate about that.
Yeah, that was the biggest uproar, right? It was more, Gretzky was obviously in shock when he got dealt. I don't think anybody really saw it coming, and being, I guess you can say like you mentioned, because Gretzky just got married the year before this trade went down. He was settling down, him and his wife, and getting ready for another big year in Edmonton. And next thing you know, he was pretty much, like you mentioned, sailed off to the LA Kings. And let me tell you, he really ended up helping them and excelling the game of hockey. So
No, it is definitely true, and I wonder. I mean, everyone's gonna always wonder the what ifs. If Wayne Gretzky stayed in Edmonton, this team, and he said it in that ESPN 30 for 30 documentary, we could have won 9, 10 Stanley Cups. I don't think he's wrong in that at all. Like, it could have happened.
No, not at all. You look at the team they had: the Messier, the Gretzky, the Anderson, the Curry, Grant Fear in net. Just a great team. There was a dynasty hockey team, and even the year after Gretzky left, at the helm, the Mark Messier era, it was still a good hockey team. They still had the core pieces. They still had, that nucleus and that willing to win. And they did it. They won another Stanley Cup. But yes, if Gretzky was still in Edmonton, I guarantee you, they could have probably won another 10 Stanley Cups for sure.
No, they couldn't. We mentioned, even past Gretzky, people, they kind of repress this memory, but people forget. As late as 1992, they were in the conference finals. They probably would have played Pittsburgh. They probably would have gotten steamrolled since they were led by Kevin Lowe and Craig McTavish, but they were only one series win away from being back in the Cup finals again.
Yeah, you bet. Yeah.
If the internet, if Twitter, if Facebook were around, I think internet would have exploded into at least 18 trillion pieces when this trade broke.
Oh, big time, for sure. For sure. And I mean, I do want to, before we get off the topic of hockey, because we do have lots to talk about, obviously the NFL preseason. You want to talk about Johnny Maselli as well in the NCAA, and then we'll touch on that. But I also want to talk about this year's Edmonton Oilers hockey team, where, we talked about the past, we talked about Gretzky, we talked about that whole area and what could be. But let's talk about now. You look at a guy that was around in the dynasty area, Craig McTavish, now at the helm of GM. He's done a wonderful job here. He's brought in Dallas Eakins now at head coach. Eakins has brought in a couple of his guys to be associate coaches. But the pieces McTavish has added, people are like, well, this is nothing big. This is nothing big. This is not a bold move. This is not this. You gotta forget, it's the small pieces that you add to the bigger picture that's gonna help you win in the long run. You look at this young hockey team the Oilers have now: Yakupov, Hall, Eberle, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins. Let's not forget Justin Schultz. You added a piece on defense in Andrew Ferrand, who, let's not forget, who's overshadowed. He's been in the Cup 3 straight years, Avery. 3 straight years. You add Boyd Gordon, who's a wonderful face-off guy. Block shots, a veteran leader. You bring in Jason LaBarbera to maybe help Devin Dubnyk, possibly get him maybe in the right state of mind to be a solid number one, and maybe help him fix those wrinkles, fix the inconsistency. Yes, he's young, but Jason LaBarbera can help him do that. You look at, they brought in David Perron via
Yes.
through Magnus Piovi. A lot of people are forgetting that David Perron's 25 years old. You do not get a prolific power forward 25 years old. They don't come very often. And to land a David Perron with the skill he's got, with even, a lot of people say, oh, he's small. He's pretty big. He's 6 foot, and he is going to put on some weight. This guy is going to help out Edmonton, and he could possibly help excel the game of Alex Hemsky, who's been lacking for the last 2 years due to injury. So,
No, you're correct in that, Brad. People mention Dave Perron. We need more size. We need more size. Dave Perron, he can play big. He's a guy who can give you 25 or heck, probably even 30 goals a year. It was a great addition.
They talk about you talk about bold moves. Mac T mentioned bold moves. To me, this was a bold move. You give up on it. Yes, a talent in Magnus Piovi. A change of scenery for me. To see Piovi go to St. Louis is a wonderful opportunity for a young guy like that with the young team they got, and he fits Ken Hitchcock's style, which is wonderful. So I hope Magnus Piovi can excel and can turn into the player the Oilers were hoping for him to do. But at the end of the day here, you look at stats, you break it down. People say Piovi's going to get more points than Perron. Piovi's going to get more goals. There is not a hope in, there's not a fighting chance that Magnus Piovi scores 25 goals and David Perron gets 15. There is no way. For me, any given day, any day of the week, David Perron is going to outscore and outpoint Magnus Piovi. So for me, this is a winning deal for the Edmonton Oilers and Craig Natalis, and they're moving in the right direction. And I am very excited for September when camp opens and October 1st when they play the Winnipeg Jets.
Oh, I'm so excited for that. And the one thing here you mentioned, people are saying how put this captaincy on Hall, put it on Hall. Why the rush? Why do you need to give Taylor Hall his C so bad? I mean, you know what? If he wants it, discuss it, talk it over as a team. But we've seen guys who have the C and are not ready for it yet. Vinny LeCavalier got the C at 19 years old. That was a disaster in Tampa Bay in his first year. It was awful. Gabriel Landeskog, he has in Colorado. And you see there's some issues. Why give it to Hall? Maybe next year. Or heck, just have the rotating captains. Have a 3As. Or give it to Andrew Ferentz, a guy who knows what it's like to be a leader and to win. The fact Taylor Hall doesn't need that pressure of being a captain in my mind.
Look at it this way. Taylor Hall has enough pressure right now to succeed, to go out, to score, to get better year in, year out, year in, year out. Now, in my mind, and I've said this since he's come here, yes, he's new. Yes, he's a new face in Edmonton, whatever. But a guy that's been to the Cup, I will mention again, 3 years in a row, give it to Andrew Ferentz. That's my pick for captaincy in Edmonton. And why not? This guy's a leader on and off the ice. He knows what it's like to win. He knows what it takes to win. So give it to a guy with a winning mentality, more mature. He's a little bit older and can show these kids how to work.
Of course, Brad. And moving off from the NHL to college football now, Johnny Manziel. If people don't know who he is, Heisman Trophy winner, the youngest ever with Texas A&M. The dude can throw, the dude can run, and he's a party boy. He likes the lifestyle. He's a bit of a wild guy. And now, he's under investigation for signing autographs and being paid over $700,000. Now, the NCAA, the national, they are known for punishing guys. Their rules basically state that, I'm sorry, but plain and simple, it's indentured servitude, in my mind. You're playing for no money, and they make billions of dollars. And he's facing punishment for this. To me, how is it fair? How is it fair this has gone on for so many generations that they can make billions and athletes cannot make a single cent without facing punishment?
Yeah, to me, this is very weird. You look at the guy. He's very talented. You mentioned he's a party animal, which you know what the guy's how old? The guy's 20 years old, 21
He's
years old.
he's our age.
I mean, who like I go back to Tyler Seguin. Tyler Seguin likes to party. So what? I mean, let him do his thing. He's 21 years old. He's in the spotlight. Let him live his life. He's not playing hockey 12 months a year. Masal is not playing, he's not playing football all the time. Let him have a life outside of the football field. And if that's what he wants to do, leave the guy alone and let him do his thing.
It's true. I mean,
Like,
yeah. Go ahead, Brad.
it drives me insane that if he's having a bad game or if he has a bad season or a bad month or whatever, people jump on you right away and they blame your extracurricular activities for your actions on the field. And you know what? 90% of the time, that's not the case. And it's sickening. This guy, like you said, is the same age as us. Let him have fun. Let him enjoy his time in the NCAA. And because in my mind, this guy is going to be in the NFL. No ifs, ands, or doubts about it. And, when he gets there, what are you going to do then when he goes out and he parties? You can't stop this. You can't prevent this from happening. Let him do his thing. He's young. He's going to make mistakes. But that's where he's got to come out. He's got to own up to those mistakes. He's got to learn and let his words speak louder than his actions and throw the football. That's all he's got to do.
It's true. I mean, you know what? If he's in the NFL and it's year 5, if he's 30 years old still doing this, then you know what? Okay, then understand. Smarten up. You're old enough now. But at 20 years old, I mean, come on. You and I'm sure we've both done some silly things that, we learned not to do again. But he's a kid. 20 years old, you know what? The maturity has to be learned. The maturity has to be earned. Once you're an adult, you're not automatically ready for the world.
No, and I mean, like you mentioned, me and you both, we're both sports broadcasters. I'm sure, hey, I'll be the first one to tell you. I like to have a good time. I like to dance. I like to go out and have a few drinks or whatever. But, and it's up to me that, yeah, we make silly mistakes or we wake up the next morning and say, why the heck did I do that? But that's for us to, live, learn, and don't make the same mistake twice. You move on, and you still got a level of professionalism, and that's where he is. Once you step on that field, that's when the pro kicks in. You're off the field, you can be a kid. You are allowed to be a kid. That's where society is screwed up a little bit here, Avery. Like you said, he's 20 years old. This guy is allowed to have fun. He's allowed to be a kid. But once he throws that football gear on, that's when the pro kicks in. I mean, for me and you, once that mic turns on, once, it's ready to become a sports broadcaster, that's when we're professional. But away from the microphone, away from Twitter, away from Facebook, we can be a kid. And that's what life's all about. Live, learn, and have fun.
No, it's true. And you know what? It doesn't surprise me how so many guys hate the media because how would you like to Brad, how would you like to live your life every single day? You and I have a good time, and you have 40 cameras in your face doing whatever you were trying to do. You're at a bar, you're having a good time, and there's paparazzi wanting to focus on whatever you do. Would you like that very much? You would have a hate for the media too, wouldn't you, Brad?
Oh, big time hate for the media, and it's people like us that are trying to change that. That there are good people in the media, and you know what? And I'll go back to it and I'll allude to it. You are allowed to have fun. I'm not going to be over your shoulder 24/7. I'm not going to be over at your mom's house. I'm not going to be over at your house. I'm not going to be over at your girlfriend's house knowing what you're doing. If you're doing horrible on the football field, if you're doing horrible, in a hockey game on the ice or whatever, then I'll let you know about it. Then I can write about it. Then I can blog about it. Then I can talk about it on my show. But what happens with you outside of whatever you're doing is honestly none of my business, and it should be none of any other media's business, to be honest, either. It's let these people live their life.
Absolutely. I mean, I think there's a bit of a change now in the culture of media because for generations, the media has always been substantially older than the athlete. The 20-year-old player has been talking to the 50-year-old reporter. And now it's the new media is the same age as the athlete. So guess what? The athlete's now opening up to that reporter more because if the player is 19, the reporter is the exact same age. They may be at the exact same parties. They may be doing the exact same things. And that reporter, he may be going to the school. They may be classmates. And they now respect the privacy of their fellow classmate, of their friend who's a pro athlete. And they don't want to report. They don't want to get him in trouble.
And I think there's more of a mutual understanding too when you're around the same age, and a mutual respect that, hey, I do these things too, and if you don't want to know about it, I don't need to know about what you're doing either. So just I'll leave you alone and let you do your thing. So.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, yeah, there's quite a few guys that we know in sports, be it college levels, be it pro sports, and I'm sure we both seen things we know are not the best, and we know better than to actually report it, than to say it on Bradcast Sports or my show. We know better than to say it put on air.
Oh, exactly. There's gotta be that line, Avery. There's always that line of, yeah, and it's always in the back of your mind. Do I report this? Do I say this? And you have to ask yourself, is this what the people want? Is this appropriate for media, or do I need to leave this out? You only give the people what they want to hear. What's going on with the Oilers? What's going on with the Golden Bears? The Nate Ooks? The Oil Kings? The whatever. Nobody wants to know what you had for dinner. It's, nobody wants to know the last time you took a shower, the last time
you took a crap. No one wants to know.
I was taking a crap. Nobody needs to know that.
It's true.
And it's the same thing via Twitter or via Facebook. Nobody needs to know when the last time you took a crap, the last time what you ate for breakfast, or what you're doing tomorrow. You're in the local circus. I mean, nobody needs to know that. People want to know what you're doing, what you're writing about. If I'm doing a big thing on the Oilers this weekend, then you tweet it out or whatever. Or for us, I mean, episode 97 is this Sunday, so we tweet out that, hey, Barry Davis of Rogers Sportsnet's going to be joining us. I mean, I don't tweet what I had for breakfast. Or if I see, if I'm out and about the city of Edmonton, and I'm sure you're the same way, and we all are, but if you're out and about and you see something funny, or you see something that's relatable to the people on social media, or people that are listening to your show, I mean, go ahead, tweet it. Have a good laugh, People want that, somewhat, that personal insight to you, which is fine to an extent, but they don't need to know your every single move.
No, it's exactly true. And with Manziel, I mean, what I hate about the NCAA is you mentioned how the control wanting to know everything about a person, then controlling their money, because how in the world does an organization control someone's name? That is your name. That's something you own. How does the NCAA own you? How is that possible?
I have no idea. You should be especially in the NCAA, in the college level, and you're just coming up. You should be able to be an individual. You should be able to express yourself, and you should be able to be you. The NCAA shouldn't own you. You should be you and just do your thing. I mean, it's understandable when you reach the NHL or the NFL or whatever. What your opinions or whatever you say may affect the team or whatever around you. But if you're in the NCAA, I mean, yeah, it affects the team to an extent, but you should still be able to speak your mind, express yourself, and do what you need to do. I mean, have fun, live your life, and it's kind of, it kind of reminds me, pro sports, kind of, you have no life. Everything about you revolves around this sport, and every move you're constantly looking over your shoulder because media, or am I doing this right? Am I doing this right? Especially at 20 years old, 21 years old, just do your thing, go to school, keep your grades up, play football, and play it well, and eventually you can get to the NFL or do whatever you got to do, and then that's when you should really watch your P's and Q's. But until then, like I said, and I keep saying, have fun and just do your thing.
Exactly, it was definitely true. But I do think one day, Brad, this is going to mean overhaul of college football because Jay Billis, the ESPN analyst for college basketball on the station, he showed that if you type in certain players' names in the NCAA store, their names show up on team merchandise. And he basically showed proof because there was never really hard proof that they made money off the players. That was hard proof, and he screen captured that. And now the NCAA said we're gonna stop selling jerseys. You know what you should do? Give the money you made off those players to them. How about that?
Oh, big time, for sure. Or even you want to give the money to these players, and maybe the players, some of the players don't want to keep it, and they give it to charity.
Yeah.
Or maybe they want to put that away for savings for, to buy a car or to buy a house or to help them along when they get to the professional rankings. I mean, it just makes me sick that the NCAA is making money off these players, and they're not even the ones on the field, on the ice, on the court, whatever, playing, sweating, and putting their heart on the line for these organizations and making nothing. And yet again, you look at the NCAA as a whole, and they're making money off these players, but they're not doing any of the work. The players are, and that makes me sick.
Absolutely, you put it right there, Brad. They're not the ones who are giving their blood, sweat, and tears to the sports they love 24/7. They're just sitting back, taking the money, and I think schools are gonna realize, you know what? The NCAA, Brad, I've said it before, is a mall. And the players and teams and the schools, there's stores. People go in for the stores. But if the store leaves, if the store relocates, people are still gonna go out and find where they are. If say 10 to 12 Division I schools like a Texas, an Alabama, a Notre Dame, they left and to go form their own sports league where they paid the players, guess what? Fans are gonna go and watch them play no matter what league they're in. The NCAA, if the schools leave, we don't care about you. We're not, our favorite schools aren't a part of you anymore. Bye.
Oh, exactly. They would lose tons of revenue that way, and tons of fans, and it would definitely hurt the NCAA if that happened. But maybe that's a big wake-up call. Maybe that's what needs to happen. Somebody real quick here needs to wake up, smell the coffee, see what's going on, and make a change before it's too late.
Exactly. We gotta make a change here. Moving from, we mentioned college to the pros and Brad. NFL preseason, I know we talk about this often. You unfortunately don't like my Green Bay Packers, who are a premier team, so take that. They've always been a premier team in the league. I know you're a bandwagoner, Brad. I see you with the Vikings. I see you cheering Oakland. There's different teams around the league. Who is your team anyway?
Hey, no. I'm an NFL guy. If there's a game on, I'll watch it. I'm not a bandwagon. Don't be whoa. Don't be starting rumors about me now. I'm a Broncos fan. I bleed the orange. Peyton Manning, Wes Welker. You're gonna be hearing that all day long, every Sunday, for 6 or even more for 6 points. Peyton Manning and the Denver Broncos. Book it now, Avery, because they're going to win the Super Bowl.
Really? You're going to put Denver in the Super Bowl already? In week 1 of the preseason?
Right now, book it.
Oh, really? See, this is what happens. The guy gets Kermit McTavish on his show, and now he believes in bold 24/7.
I didn't say the Edmonton Oilers were going to make the Stanley Cup now. Whoa, hold on.
Denver, you know what? I will say this, though. Denver, this is a team to bring in Wes Welker. I just love the fact how Patriots fans were mad at Welker leaving. Dude, he was a free agent. He has the right to go somewhere if he wants to. What are you mad about?
Oh, big time. You know what? If I'm a Patriots fan, I'm kind of worried, to be brutally honest. You lose Wes Welker, probably the best receiver on the team at the time, if not one of the premier receivers in the NFL. And going, you can't blame Welker. He goes from Brady, and now he'll have Peyton Manning. So that's not a bad move for him at all. But you back to the Patriots. You lose Welker. Okay, you lost. Well, you didn't lose, but you released Aaron Hernandez because he's gonna be going to jail for the rest of his life, by the sounds of it. So this team, I hate to say it, Avery, but they're kind of turning into, or they are gonna end up turning into the Montreal Alouettes of the CFL, and eventually I think fall off the grid and not be the NFL powerhouse anymore, because you're going to have teams like Green Bay, like Denver, uh, like Baltimore, San Francisco, that are always going to one-up you. And we're seeing that now. We're seeing the changing of the guard. You look last year with Baltimore, San Francisco in the Super Bowl. The year before that, and it's a real changing of the guard for sports. CFL, Montreal's not the powerhouse. The NHL, Detroit's not the powerhouse anymore. You got teams taking over that. So we're really seeing changing of the guard here in not just the NFL, but every sport.
No,
The powerhouses are kind of dying out, and everybody's kind of, I guess you can say, in a sense, Avery, becoming equal.
no,
And it's fair playground now.
it is, Brad, and it's a great example right now. You mentioned Montreal in the CFL, New England, Detroit. Everyone's number comes up. Nothing lasts forever. I mean, look at the Wings. Their time is going to come eventually. They almost missed the playoffs. The Alouettes, they're 2-4. This Alouettes team, this current version that we know them as, has never missed the playoffs.
Oh my! Well, you already seen this. The coach is canned already. 5 games in. And it's. I don't. They need, I think, a facelift in the off season. Yeah, but I go back to the NFL, and it's kind of anybody's game, even in the preseason. I look at you look at the odds to win the Super Bowl or whatever. To me, take those odds, throw those odds out the window, because who knows? I'm not saying anything here, Avery, but who knows? You look at a team, for instance, let's say, give me the worst team. Let's say right now, the Cincinnati Bengals, because I hate Mark Sanchez. Let's say the New York Jets.
Yeah.
All of a sudden they come out strong and they go 4-2 or 5-1. I'm not saying it'll happen, but just in hindsight here, and all of a sudden they make the playoffs, and everybody's like, "Whoa, I didn't see that coming." Well, of course you didn't see it coming, because you're cheering for the Patriots still. I mean, it's time to move on, people. It's new change of the guard. Everything's, I think, in any sport equal now. It's anybody's game. Don't ever count out a team. Don't even count out the Oakland Raiders. And anybody can win the Super Bowl. Anybody can win the Stanley Cup. Anybody can win the Grey Cup. The one great Kevin Garnett once said, "Anything is possible."
Oh, that is so true. I mean, you mentioned just the parity in sports, Brad. I mean, what? 4 years ago, we had a Super Bowl with the Arizona Cardinals in it.
I can't help but laugh at that. Oh my!
The Cardinals, for generations, have been an awful NFL team, and then they go on this run and are 2 minutes away from being NFL champs.
Wait a sec. Let me catch my bearings there. Oh my god, that's funny. The Arizona Cardinals in the Super Bowl. Man, I never would have thought that. But that's exactly right. Anything is possible.
It is.
The Buffalo Bills could go 16-0 for all I know.
Whoa. Let's calm down, Brad. Let's not be too crazy here now.
Yeah, everybody in Buffalo listening, don't get too excited. Don't get too excited now.
I mean, this is a team that could move to Toronto by the end of week 1 for all we know.
Wow, yeah. Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah. Speaking of Toronto, how about those Blue Jays? Oh my goodness.
I don't... After all the hype, after being psyched up, after interviewing John Gibbons, and really believing that this team could go out and be a 95-win ball club, it's face palm worthy right now, Brad.
They could barely get to 75 wins. I mean, it's sad to see. Yes, you can blame it on injuries. You can blame it on whatever you want to blame it on. This is not the team that we thought they'd be. They are. Let's not. Don't get me wrong, Avery. This team is an all-star team on paper. Okay, this is a great ball club, but losing the Jose Reyes for the extended period of time, the slow start of the rotation via Mark Burley, Josh Johnson, R.A. Dickey, the injuries piled up. I guess the only bright spot in that, well, not anymore, but the bright spot in that rotation was Ismail Rogers. The injury to Brendan Moore really hurt. You look now, Mark Burley's starting to come around. I talked to a guy today. He's a really the head coach of a team, a midget team in Spruce Grove, midget AAA baseball team in Spruce Grove. I talked to him about the Blue Jays briefly, and we discussed Josh Johnson and how he wants upwards of $14 million a season. Now, $14 million a season for what? For what exactly? I don't know. I really think this guy's going to walk. Yes, he loves Toronto, but the Blue Jays will not sign him. Now let me just throw this out here, and we'll get your side, Avery, because I know you've covered these guys really closely. You've been back and forth to Toronto, but what would it mean if Alex Anthopoulos reassembled his team? Okay, he got this team this year, keeps the same team, because I don't see them trading anybody.
No.
Don't get me wrong. This is a good team. This is a very good team. They need to be better on the field. They need to produce on the field. Now, maybe this was kind of a 1 year, let's test the water, get to know each other, this and this and this. You can make up any other excuse, whatever. But maybe that's the case. I've been hearing already Alex Anthopoulos needs to be fired. He needs to be this. Let's not blame it. If you're going to blame it on somebody, don't blame it on AA. This guy has given the Toronto Blue Jays every possibility to win. He's given you an ace knuckleballer, ex-Cy Young Award winner in R.A. Dickey. He's given you a great pitcher in Josh Johnson. He's given you a guy that could prove him to pitch dominant both in Chicago and in Miami, and Mark Burley. He's given you a peripheral, a number one shortstop in Jose Reyes. He's given you a guy that can run the baseball in Emilio Bonifacio. Yes, he may not be your everyday, second baseman or whatever the case may be, but he's still there. He still gives you the speed. The only question that I have on this ball club is the trade for Miser Torres. This guy is absolutely useless. Okay? He's just about as useless as John Gibbons is on that bench.
Oh, it comes to Gibby now.
Wow. Let me get to that in a second. That's another topic. But Miser Torres, what exactly is this guy's purpose? I don't understand Miser Torres in Toronto. The LA Angels were laughing when they gave up Torres to the Blue Jays. What are you thinking? Can you help me understand? Talk about the whole Blue Jay thing, Avery, because like I said, I know you're around the team lots, cover the team, but talk about Miser Torres. What on God's green earth are you thinking? I don't understand.
I mean, you know what? With Michael Torres, you knew you weren't getting a guy who's full of power. You knew you brought him in more for his defense, but I mean, hitting 235, on base percentage is below 300. I mean, this is a year where his stats it's a regression, complete regression. Not much has happened for him. I mean, to bring him in, I think is a mistake. And you really can't comprehend him at all. Because this is a guy you thought would thrive in Toronto after having pretty good years in LA, but it's just been a disaster, Brad.
Well, I think that's an understatement. Disaster. And you mentioned the decline in stats. Yeah, I think you could say that for everybody on this Blue Jay team. Burley's not having the years that we've seen him have. And maybe it's because age is catching up to him. We're seeing R.A. Dickey come off that Cy Young Award win, and now having probably one of his worst starts or worst years of his career. I mean, maybe it will turn around next year, and we can only hope because, like I said, I don't see Alex Anthopoulos, doing a total makeover of this baseball team with the players he gave up and the players he brought in. I just don't see it happening. Maybe a player or two coming in, but I don't see the whole facelift of the Toronto Blue Jays after 1 year. Let's all give up on them. But I do think, honestly, and maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong or whatever the case may be, but I really think part of the problem, Avery, is John Gibbons. I really do. I don't think John Gibbons is the manager for this team. I don't. And you're gonna laugh, or everybody's gonna laugh at this, but why not? You look at the years Cito Gaston was here. Cito Gaston, no matter what team was on that field, he put something in them to make them win. He lit that fire to help them give them 110%. You look at every time the camera flashes to John Gibbons, he's sitting there, his legs crossed, he's spits, and he's not vocal at all. Like, he's just, Avery, I don't understand what John Gibbons is trying to do with this baseball team, because right now, he's taking the Titanic and he's sinking it again.
Well, the fact.
I really don't see what's going on here.
Well, first of all, the fact that if Gibbons was first of all able to reassemble the Titanic and sink it again, that is incredible. But I mean, I do see what you mean. John Gibbons, he's always been a guy. He's always been somewhat laid back. When Gibbons first took the Jays job, he was 42 years old, a bit on the younger side. Now he's 51 years old. But I will say this though, his decisions to leave guys on the mound after they're getting lit up, I don't like that. I mean, give guys some relief. Don't let them hang up to dry for 7 or 8 or 9 more runs.
Yeah, I don't get his problem, but you look like, why couldn't you go get Terry Francona? Like, before he signed in Cleveland, he was available to the Toronto Blue Jays. In a sense, Avery, and I mentioned it to somebody the other day, it's kind of like the Edmonton Oilers organization. You're constantly going back to the old boys club. The Kevin Lowe's, the Messier, or the McTavishes, the Steve Smith and Buchberger now as assistant coaches. And you had Cito Gaston, and you had Gibbons before that. Now you bring Gibbons back. I mean, what's next? Are you gonna bring back like an 80-year-old like Lou Piniella? Like I don't get it. I don't understand what is going on here. And I really think they need a new manager. I think that's one thing they need to do in the off season. Never mind. Yes, you need to add a player or two. Get rid of Mysore Torres. You can Bonifacio can go too. But get rid of John Gibbons. Please, for the love of God, get rid of Gibby. He's a wonderful man. He's 50 years old. He could have a great retirement in Florida somewhere. Just managing is not his gig in Toronto anymore. Give Avery Lewis McDougall the managing job in Toronto before you give John Gibbons the job in Toronto. It's just It makes more sense that way.
I would shatter the record of the youngest manager in league history. I'd absolutely shatter it if you saw me in the dugout. I was leading the Blue Jays, but I think there's some people who would faint if they saw me come out of the curtain and shake AA's hand. Some people would probably pass out and go, "Oh Lord, no, not Avry." I would take that job. But you know what? You mentioned Cito Gaston. At the same time, Brad, you mentioned the old boys club. How many times can a team go back to that well and bring back the old school manager? It's like the LA Lakers in basketball. Whenever a coach sucks, they always cry, "Bring back Phil Jackson." How many times do you go back to the past before you say, we gotta give someone new a chance to lead this team?
Yeah, there needs to be that time there. And that's all up to management, too. Like ownership or whatever, where you need to go back to the round table, you need to go back to that meeting and say, like, okay, this worked before, this worked twice, this worked 3 times, but when is that magic, when is that winning going to run out? Cito Gaston obviously was just an example. He is not the answer. He's won here, and he's proven that, they can have, not a World Series type team, but they can win,
Mm-hmm.
They respond very well to Cito Gaston, and that's what the Jays need. The Jays need somebody that kind of kicks them in the butt. John Gibbons just doesn't do that. Mark Burley could go over and slap Gibbons, and Gibbons do absolutely nothing.
Well, I don't know. Well, if you remember back in John Gibbons' first tenure, him and Ted Lilly, they had an argument on the mound, and Lilly shoved Gibbons. And people say there wasn't a fight, but rumor went Gibbons popped Lilly and drilled him right in the nose for pushing him on the mound in the clubhouse afterwards.
That's why his face looks so bad. I'm sorry, Ted Lilly.
So, I mean, he's a manager. I wouldn't want to show John Gibbons. He'll knock your teeth out. He's the wrong manager to try and get physical with.
But where's that attitude when you're down 14-2? Or when you blow a 7-2 lead against the Seattle Mariners? Where is that fire in John Gibbons when they need it? Why can't you show it to the media? Every time the media goes to John Gibbons, he's got his feet up on his desk, he's got his hat off, and he's spitting sunflower seeds or chewing gum like a horse. He's saying, well, this was a good ball game. How in the world was that a good ball game? And you can learn better for next game. There's always tomorrow. Yes, I understand there's always tomorrow, but you still need discipline. Discipline. That is the main key, and that's what the Toronto Blue Jays are lacking. And I'm sorry. That is the bottom line right there. John Gibbons needs to get more stirred.
Wow. Maybe you should be the manager of the Jays, Brad. That was powerful stuff.
Maybe, I don't know. Give me a call, Alex. I'll manage anytime.
Trying to end the man's career. Oh my gosh. But anyway, Brad, before we end this pilot, I gotta let you promote your show, Bradcast Sports. You mentioned, speaking of the Jays, you have Barry Davis on.
Yeah, you bet. Barry Davis, episode 97. Barry Davis this Sunday, 9 p.m. Edmonton time, 11 p.m. on the East Coast. It's going to be a great show. 97, episode 98, which is, I guess you could say 2 weeks from right now, because obviously it's not Sunday yet. But I will say next week, 98, we'll have Ryan the Real Deal Ford on, an local MMA fighter who's been on about 3 times already. Great guy, very down to earth, very real. So that's always good. Episode 99 will be joined by G. Roy Simon of his Saskatchewan Roughriders, which will be a first for us. We've never had. We've had a couple CFL players on, but G. Roy will be a first. So we're very excited for that. And we are waiting, Avery. Obviously, we want to get you on for episode 100, but we are also waiting confirmation to get a Edmonton Oiler on the show for episode 100. And maybe, hey, who knows? It may be Wayne Gretzky. I don't know.
If you get Wayne Gretzky on episode 100, I will come to the Bradcast Sports studios and sit in with you and Vic Michaels.
Hey, by the way, give us a follow. Broadcast and Brad on Twitter. Vic Michaels, my colorful co-host, week in and week out. Avery's doing a wonderful job. Tune in to his weekly show, Avry Sports Show. You can catch us on Blog Talk Radio, Bradcast Sports.com. So be there, be square. You're missing some great local sports broadcasters. Vic Michaels, Brad Bartko, Avry Sports. And hey, Avery, hopefully we can continue doing this. I'd love to even, hey, if you need a full-time co-host, I'm on board. You gotta let me know, though, man. I would love to do this anytime.
Now, of course, bro, it's been an absolute blast doing this pilot, and I guess we'll figure out a name. I'm trying either Avery the Podcast or Avery's World. Those are the two leading candidates for this podcast.
Yeah, hey, I like Avery's World. That's got a good ring to it, so I think we'll stick with that one.
We probably should. Alright, Brad, I know you need your beauty rest. Gotta put your cucumbers over your eyes and put your facial mask on now.
Yeah, and my Santa Claus box tubes are getting ready for Christmas already.
Oh, jeez. Alright, Brad, talk to you later, man.
Alright, it was a pleasure. Take care. Have a good night,
Of course, Brad.